Yesterday, I had a wonderful opportunity to find out how I find my breath. I woke up with a great plan for the morning, drove to my yoga studio, parked my car, was locking my door when a woman came up to me and said, "Do you realize that you have a flat tire?" I was like, oh no, I don't want to miss my yoga class, but I think I need to deal with this. I had a big sigh and I sat back down in my car, called my Visa company who transferred me to the emergency number, and the woman there said, "You know, Visa doesn't really tell you this, but you're going to be charged $60 to have someone come and put that spare tire on." What? I started feeling myself sink underwater. I'm missing my best yoga class, and now I have to pay $60, and I have to go to the rental agency to get a new car. So much for my best laid plans. 30 minutes later, Dixon drives up in his big truck and he gets out and he looks at my tire and he says, "Oh, look at that. That's a really big nail in there." And I look and sure enough, I see the head, huge head sticking out of my tire. He pumps the car up and he takes that machine that takes the lug nuts off and he says, "Oh, these are really hard." And I thought, I'm so glad. For a moment when I heard about the $60, I had the fantasy that I was going to take out that little, L-shaped thing and try to change the tire myself. But no, because even Dixon said, this is even hard with my tool to get these off. He changed the tire, he left, and I started driving out of the parking lot. I remembered as I was feeling my distress about everything changing that I had gotten an email the day before from a friend saying that she had a friend whose daughter had been missing since the Friday before. And I remember thinking, oh, what I couldn't even imagine what that would feel like. Nevertheless, a moment later that thought was gone and I felt this other upwelling of feeling in my own body. And instead of trying to figure out what it was, I just said, "I am suffering, I am suffering, I am suffering." And then I interrupted myself with a big laugh, like, really? Really, are you suffering here? You're safe, you know where your children are, you have a car, you got somebody to help you. You might be a little annoyed, but let's just be careful about the use of the word suffering. As I drove on to the 80, I looked out onto the beautiful expanse of the bay and I thought, what helps me to find my breath? And I thought, first of all, of course, breathing. When I get in these situations, I stop breathing, and that means that all the oxygen is not going to my brain and my thinking has completely shut down. The second thing, of course, is my yoga practice, which is part of why I was sad about not going, because it really does teach me how to breathe and how to be in my body and how to be in the moment. As I drove off onto the 80 transition, I thought about the idea of perspective. When I thought about that mother not knowing where her daughter was, that gave me perspective on what really was the big problem that day versus what I had initially thought was the problem. The other thing I remembered is that I had perspective because I woke up and I set my timer in the morning for 15 minutes and I meditated. I went from 1 to 10 and back to 1 to 10 with my breath. And then once in a while, when I realized I was on number 34, I went, oops, I think I went somewhere that I didn't mean to go, and I went back to 1. As I turned off on the Gilman Avenue exit and I looked out to the right where there are these wonderful soccer fields, I thought about my children, my twins who are going to turn 20 in a couple of weeks, and I thought they take my breath away quite a bit, let's just say. However, they give me breath as well. The way that they are stepping into their lives and they are learning how to find their own breath. In many ways, for me, it's like when you're underwater with thoughts that you can't seem to get away from. I think you talked a little bit about it. You forget that you have a plethora of ways that you can pull yourself up out of that water and breathe again. And being able to think about that really helped me to ground myself in what helps me find my breath. So again, I ask you, what helps you find your breath? Chogyam Trungpa Rinpoche from the Tibetan tradition says, if you can hold the pain of the world in your hands and never forget the vastness of the great eastern sun, then you can make a proper cup of tea. I think about that a lot when I have my own personally created dramas, and also when I have really, really challenging situations come up in my life. To make that cup of tea, I have to be that cup. I have to be the tea. I have to be the hot water that I pour into the cup. I also sometimes have to be the honey and the spoon and the almond milk or the cow's milk that I pour into my tea. Basically, I have to have that big perspective, and I have to know that I am part of everything. When I can do that, then both I find my breath and I generally have a great story and also a great cup of tea. Thank you.